STMU and an AGM. So after a really hard year, we managed to kind of bring CompSoc back from essentially the dead from during COVID. We started running in-person events again. We've kick-started a couple of our sub-societies, our SIGs again, and we're kind of picking up again. So today we have an excellent talk from Bloomberg's Dietmar Kuhl on quicker sorting, as you see. Afterwards, we will have a half-an-hour break with our famous CompSoc pizzas from Chivarino's, and then we will be selecting our new committee for the coming year. So what we're going to do is, for that, we're going to put out some voting links. So some of you have already received them. If you have not yet received them, please wait until the break, at which point go and see Yuto at the back of the room. And same goes for if you decide to run on the spot. So, Dietmar, floor is yours. Yeah, of course.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. As he said, I'm Dietmar Kuhl from Bloomberg. At Bloomberg, I work in infrastructure, more precisely on distributing data to all our clients. And in infrastructure, performance is a little bit of an issue, so we try to get that as good as possible. This talk is not about anything I do really at work, but kind of the things I'm presenting over here are somewhat resembling to what we do in infrastructure, to basically pay attention to a lot of detail. All right, so what I'm going to talk about is I quickly sort out quicksort. I hope everybody of you has a brief, vague idea what quicksort is about, because it will be relatively quick. Then I will implement and compare multiple versions of quicksort to basically show what is needed to actually make quicksort give its name. And depending on time, I can stop a little bit early. I can turn that into the concrete implementation, basically outline how to turn that into a fully generic implementation. So let's get started to basically, okay, who's a C++ expert? Okay, unsurprisingly, I'm the only one who puts their hand up. If you're not a C++ expert, I hope that is okay. All of the code will be C++. I don't know any of Haskell or Rust to do it in any of those things. However, the basic ideas should translate to other languages as well to some extent. So in C++, there's basically a standard library which does provide a sort function, which normally is implemented as quicksort because it is the quickest sorting algorithm if you do it right. The algorithm is required to be n log n. Now, if you remember, quicksort is not n log n, it's actually n squared. So it clearly is not really quicksort, but we will see how that works. And there's actually multiple versions of, or multiple variations how to do sorting in a standard library. There's sort, which is kind of, yeah, this is a fast one. If you don't care about anything else, this is what you want to use. There's stable sort, which actually is merge sort effectively, normally, which is stable, whereas quicksort is not stable. And there's no known approach yet to make quicksort quick and stable. And then there's also things like make heap and sort heap to actually sort things. The difference between stable sort is stable sort needs some level of extra memory, non-constant extra memory like log squared n or something like that. And heap sort doesn't need any, needs only constant extra memory. So this is why these things may matter. If you have huge arrays, maybe that matters to you. I will show performance results. The performance results are based on a random sample, more or less, so they're not really representative of real-world data, but hopefully they represent things reasonably well. So there are multiple random sequences which are used, and with different variations of equal values. If you just take a random, really random sample of data, quicksort will always be good. However, this is not what happens in the real world. In the real world, you often have equal elements or a near sorted sequence and all of that. And this way, quicksort actually falls down, and other sorting algorithms may be better, and you need to do things. I also put in an all ascending, all descending sequence, and one which is all equal, which is kind of, on a vanilla quicksort, the all equal is kind of the killer, sort of the killer. You can actually create a killer, and I may talk about that later. So the results look something like that. Why would you use a sort algorithm? I will always show relative results. So it's basically sizes from a sequence size of 100 to whatever it is, 4 million or something like that. It's relative sizes. The blue line is basically how sort works. Anything below would be really good. Anything above is slower, so stable sort, like it's a small percentage. If you want stability, you pay a little for it. You may want to do that. Heap sort is yet more expensive, but maybe the right thing to do sometimes. So this is how all the other results will look like as well. Now, let's jump into quicksort. Quicksort, really simple algorithm, right? We take an input, we pick a pivot, we group the things which are smaller, this is basically the green guys, than the pivot. We mark those, we get the red guys, which are bigger. We partition, and we get that, right? So basically, the smaller sequence, the pivot, and the tail sequence, all right? But this is not sorted yet, we need to recurse. So we do the same thing. This is all this quicksort is. Now that sounds like a good algorithm, let's implement it. The implementation, really straightforward. We start with a begin and an end. One thing which is interesting, if you don't know C++, begin is inclusive and end is exclusive, so it's a half open range, all of these things. This is somewhat important in the code, although I will entirely gloss over that to make it correct. It's an interesting concept though. If you have something like a begin-end thing, making the first inclusive and the second exclusive normally gets rid of all the plus ones, minus ones you may have if you index things. This makes things so much easier. But the algorithm is really simple. If we have one or no element to sort, we are done. Otherwise, we pick a pivot. I just pick the end one, right? It's easy enough. There's at least one element. We partition according to the pivot. Then the pivot is sitting right in the end. But the standard partition algorithm gives us back the start of the sequence which does not match the predicate. So we basically, mid is where the pivot goes, so we just swap these around. And then we recurse. Now that should be good, right? So let's see, this is the performance. That's not good. This actually is really, really bad. So I actually stopped it over here because nowhere to go. Now if you recall your lectures, I haven't seen those, but I remember my lectures. My lectures basically went kind of, all right, yeah, quicksort is not good. You need to be careful and choose a pivot, right? So that's what we do, use a pivot. So the idea of the pivot is kind of just taking the end one. Well, this is kind of not necessarily the best one. Let's do other popular choices. A popular choice maybe median of 3. So we take 3 candidates and we take the middle one. That should work actually reasonably well with sorted and reverse sorted things. Okay, there's some extra cost in picking the median because hey, picking the last one is really simple. The median a little bit extra cost, but hopefully that pays off. So all we do is kind of the thing over here where we basically still have the sort. Instead of the pivot, we basically say, all right, we get a pointer to the pivot, which is n-1 still. We find the begin, say the middle guy, which is just between the middle and half of the length. This may actually be sometimes the same thing, but I think it does actually magically work out. And then we basically sort these 3 elements. So I will show the small sort algorithm in a moment, and then everything else stays the same. Just lovely. So the small sort algorithm is really handcrafted. I'm not going to through the details of that. You can work out the logic. It's basically just go, oh, if this is smaller than that, we pick this, and it all sorts out, and we put the things into the right locations. And then we sort. That's the result of that. Now, this now says 16, before it said 70. So this is better, but still not good. So the pivot is not really buying us much. So we need to do something entirely different. Let's see what we need to do entirely different. And the magic over here is actually called something called intro sort. It's an idea people had actually not that long ago to basically say, let's observe what's happening while quicksort is running. And if quicksort starts recursing too deep, we go, maybe we should stop doing that, and maybe we switch over to something else. That's the entire idea of this algorithm. So now you can basically start picking when do we stop, and basically I did some measurements and other people did other similar measurements, and something like about 2 log n-ish seems to be a good value. Let's pick that, and this is just tweaking things, right? You get a few % up and down depending on your sort sequence. And the basic idea is you fall back to a different sort algorithm. If you need to really be in place, you cannot have extra memory, you would use heap sort. Otherwise, you would effectively use merge sort because it's faster. I will just call stable sort, and I'm not going to go into the implementation of stable sort because it was a better one. So here's how that looks like. So we still have our original algorithm, except that over here we basically pass in a current depth and the maximum depth, and we basically go, all right, if our current depth is not the maximum depth, then we do the recursively thing. Otherwise, we go and say, no, we stable sort. And, well, this thing is reasonably close to computing the log n, basically just counting where the first bit is. And now you may go and say, wouldn't be something else way more effective to doing exactly that. Turns out all decent compilers actually replace the logic with pop count assembly instruction. So they figure out this is fine. They just do that. So this is intro sort. Let's see how that does. Ooh, this is way better. This is where the magic lies. Right? So we basically brought it down to be now in the same range as stable sort. We're basically doing quick sort algorithm with the intro sort around. So now we are talking at least a similar ballpark, the same thing. But actually I don't want to be above the blue line, I actually want to be at least on the blue line, well, ideally below, right? So let's go next. What do we do? Insertion sort. Everybody knows insertion sort? A terrible idea on big sequences. A great idea on tiny sequences though. If we actually compute the number of operations on tiny sequences of something like up to 16, 20, somewhere in that ballpark, elements is actually a really good algorithm. It's actually faster than most of the others. Try to do it on a big sequence, unless it's near sorted. And with near sorted, I mean kind of elements don't move much. It's a terrible idea. And using insertion sort in quicksort, basically the idea is, all right, we recurse, and eventually when we get to a sequence of, let's say, 16 or 20, I don't know what the number is offhand, it should be in the code, but eventually we go and say, all right, our range is only that big, let's do insertion sort. There are two variations of that. One is to basically say, whenever we recurse, we immediately do the insertion sort, we fail over to do the insertion sort, or alternatively, we could just stop the recursion, eventually get a huge sequence, and I said insertion sort is bad on a huge sequence, but the elements don't move much because they are already in the borderline right buckets. So we can actually just run over the entire sequence. And there are debates on which one is more effective because you would kill the instruction cache and God knows what if you fall back to the other algorithm locally versus, oh, but data's already cached and well, these things matter, so I implemented both. The basic idea of an insertion sort, well, this says local, but it's the same algorithm anyway, is basically we go, over here we just fall back into if the size is less than some size, and this size would be something like 16 or 20, depends a little bit on measurement, but you can pick a number in that range. Then we go and say, well, if it's empty, we don't do anything. Otherwise, what the algorithm effectively does is it picks each of the individual elements in the sequence. Well, except for the first one. The first one basically goes, right, this is in the right location. And then it basically goes, oh, if an element is smaller than its predecessor, it basically picks it up, moves the predecessor forward until it finds a position where the next position is bigger, and then drops it in. So this is basically what that does. It basically goes, all right, yeah, we need to do something, pick it out in a temporary variable, compare these things, and then loop around until we are done and finished. So look insertion sort. Let's see. Ooh, awesome. So you can see the previous version we had is a green line, and then we have a local and the global version of the insertion sort, and you can see they're roughly speaking similar. The local version does a little bit better in the beginning, but towards the end it actually entirely factors out. So this is clearly something which helps quicksort. But we're still in the back, especially a few percent short. Let's do more. So tail recursion. C++ is not a great functional programming language. It doesn't detect tail recursion at all. And this is not really tail recursive because we have actually two recursions. But we could go and say, well, you know what? Instead of recursing, we could go and say the bigger sequence, we actually process in a loop. And we only recurse into the shorter sequence to avoid call overhead and all of that stuff. So this is the idea of eliminating tail recursion. So we basically, instead of, still the same code, but instead of, over here, instead of recursing, we go and say, well, if the first sequence is, this is the shorter one, we recurse in the shorter sequence, and we just set things up such that if we whiz around again, the actual begin is now the mid plus 1 because we had stepped off 1. So we can sort that locally. We don't do a recursive call, or otherwise we do it the other way around, right? If the shorter sequence is the second one, we recurse into that one and set things up to be the first sequence and whiz around. And then this over here is not a if statement, but a while loop. All right, so small, tiny change, and let's see. Now, over here you see that the green line mostly, except for the beginning over here, mostly is a little bit below the yellow line. If you look at the actual data point, it is actually solidly below. So it's not just the pixels, but not much. So that didn't buy us much, but I think we keep that. Okay, so what other ideas can we have? Okay, partition. Actually, quicksort primarily does partition, right? The real beef is in the partition, and I haven't talked about the partition yet. Let's talk about the partition. So partition is actually an interesting little algorithm, just sorting a sequence into two parts, one for which the predicate is true, the other one for which the predicate is false, and it returns you the beginning of where things start to go false. This is really the core algorithm of quicksort. So how does partition look like? All right, let's say we have something like that. We have picked that blue pivot maybe. Partition itself actually doesn't really talk about a pivot. It only talks about a predicate being true or false. So in the sort, we basically make sure that the pivot is really outside the range, and we actually partition just the other range and eventually put the pivot just into the right location. Oh, and by the way, I didn't mention that. If you have any questions or comments, please shout them out now if you want to, otherwise also later. Yeah, and yes?
So I have a few questions. How does it decide what range to use in the partition? So what range for the pivot?
Okay, so the pivot it just finds, right? Somehow. Once it has found the pivot, it just sticks the pivot out to basically be a comparison. And then the partitioned range is the entire range except the pivot.
So how does it decide? Is it like a pseudo place for the pivot? It's like just not the very last one.
Well, the pivot selection, this is what I showed earlier. Like there are various algorithms to figure out which value should we use as a pivot. It's just a value which sits somewhere, and we just put it outside the range to make the algorithm, the range suitable for partition. Right? So it's just putting things out of range. Okay, so the algorithm itself, once it has marked the pivot and basically colored implicitly it doesn't really color the things, but logically you can consider them colored by looking through the predicate. It basically goes and says, right, we start off with essentially pointers to the beginning of the range and the end of the range over there, although the end is not the C++ end, it's really the element over here. And then we find the first guy from the front, which needs to go to the back, and we were already on one which needs to go to the front. Once we have found them, all we do is we swap them around. And we keep doing that, right? So we find the next position, swap the elements. Next position, and eventually we're done. And once we are done, we have an element over here and a pivot over here, and we basically swap these things because we know the pivot is right in the middle. Like everything right of the pivot is bigger, and everything left of the pivot is smaller. So this is the entire partition algorithm. So we can implement that. It's also not too hard. And we basically set up our begin end. I use a while true loop because it's a little bit annoying otherwise. The real exit condition is in the middle. This is basically a find. We start at the beginning, we find the first, and we basically just increment things while the current element is less than the pivot. Okay, cool. And from the back we do just the same, just moving forward. And for technical reasons, this is post-increment. Basically, this is a pre-decrement to basically go from, all right, we sit just behind, we just move before we compare, and it all works out. And then if we actually begin and end are the same element, we're done. And otherwise, we just swap the guys and move on. So this is the entire partition. Now, if you drop that partition in instead of the partition, the standard partition, you can actually see that the lines are roughly speaking the same. So the green line is the previous algorithm using tail recursion. The yellow line is a partition one, and they wiggle a little bit around each other, but this is mostly comparison things. So that didn't really buy us much. But if you look back at this algorithm, it actually does each loop, it does two comparisons. It checks whether we are still in range and whether we are less than the pivot. And likewise in the other case, right? It's range check and pivot check. Maybe we can bring it down to just doing one comparison each loop. And maybe it's a cool idea. And this is the idea of using a sentinel. The idea of a sentinel is, well, if we have a value where we would stop in the end automatically without the range check, we are good, right? We can just walk until that happens. As it turns out, at the end of the range, there's a pivot sitting. So if we search from the start of the loop until the end, we actually hit the pivot. So there's actually absolutely no reason to have the first range check at all. We can just drop it. So this is what that does, right? So we have this range check, but actually the pivot is right at the end. So we actually achieve that thing if this algorithm definitely does not possibly hold. So we can just remove it. Well, this was an easy optimization. I like those. For the other direction, it's a little bit harder because in the start of the range, we don't know what is sitting there. We need to put something there. Now, considering that our algorithm actually swaps these elements around, it will eventually, once it has actually swapped the first element, there is one sitting in the front which we can use. So we just use that. So the idea over there is to basically go and say, all right, well, we do this guy once with a range check, and we find something there, and then we search. But once we have found that, I don't know where's that going. I think this is still the search. Is that right? And then, but once we have executed this guy once, or the previous guy once, we can actually simplify the loop to be actually just these two things, and they both, because now we have a sentinel in the beginning and in the end. So this takes out two comparisons in each loop. So let's see how that works. And lo and behold, you can actually see that the previous version was still the tail recursion version because it was slightly better than the partition, but now the yellow line is actually quite solidly below the, well, certainly solidly below the green line, and actually mostly even below the blue line. Now you could argue, why does the standard sort not do that optimization? It seems they don't do that optimization. And indeed, they don't do that optimization, and there's actually a reason they don't do that optimization. And this is because programmers are really, really bad. Right? I mean, this is all of us. I think you're all programmers, so I include you. Now, the badness is the following. People often compare, let's say, double values. Now, what is odd with double values? Anybody knows? Okay, the answer is everything. Well, okay, so you didn't know what to shout out. But the oddness which is bad over here is in particular, double values have NaN values, not a number values. The interesting bit of not a number is it does not compare less or bigger or equal to the same value even. As a result, if your sequence contains doubles where there's not a number value in, first of all, your sequence will not be sorted, no matter what. But if you do the sentinel approach, you may easily run off into the weeds and crash. With the, if you actually have a value and you check for the range, at least you don't crash. And apparently people like that better. I have that firsthand from actually the person who, or one of the people who worked on the standard sort. The standard sort over here is the one from libs to C++, shipping with GCC. And I gave a presentation similar to that, and I pointed that out, and somebody actually in the audience said, oh yeah, I implemented that sort, and this is exactly the reason. He entirely confirmed that. This was my suspicion. Now, this is actually something which is important. If you sort things, you typically want to have a strict weak order. You need to make sure that that is the case, and NaNs don't fit that. Now, if you don't have NaNs in that, this algorithm is perfectly fine. Okay, so going beyond that, so this is already good. Can we do better, right? I always want to do better. It's not good enough. So earlier we had basically a little bit of a special code to sort 3 values. This is really, we can actually reason about what is the minimum number of comparisons we can do for 3 values, 4 values, 5 values. It becomes really, really fiddly getting beyond that. You can do it, it's basically just a logic network. Fiddling that out becomes annoying, and actually it becomes eventually slower doing it like that, because it's always different code, and you basically hit the instruction cache is harming you. But for really small values, maybe we can do better, rather than kicking off a full-blown sort for values. So this is what I implemented. I actually did implement it with up to 6 values, but it actually went worse starting at 5. So the idea is relatively simple, right? If you have 0 value to sort, well, we are done, right? Or 1 value to sort, we're also done. For 2 values, we really know, okay, if they can only be in one order, right? We can just swap them. The small sort we saw, and the 4-element one effectively amounts to, we do the 3 version 1, and then we figure out where the 4th element fits in. This is all that code does. With 5 values, this is not quite the right thing. You cannot just sort for 4, if I recall correctly, and with 6 it gets really fiddly. But it can be done. Now, this up to 4 values, again, you see, maybe you see that the yellow line is, well, kind of around the green line-ish. So based on my measurements, I recall that it made a small difference, so I kept it, but it's not really the big winner. Let's see whether we can do yet better. What other ideas could we have? And there's an interesting observation, and that is the bad case for quicksort is actually you do partition, and actually it didn't do anything. The sequence was already such that the pivot was actually kind of just on one end. So we actually didn't really swap anything around. Now, if we observe that case, and we just count the number of swaps we do in the partition, then we know how much work did we do over here? And we may detect, oh, we didn't do any work. And maybe if we arrive at something like that, we gamble on maybe our sequence is nearly sorted. And what I mean with nearly sorted is, well, we do an insertion sort, and we move up to whatever, maybe 7 times or something like that. And if we reach the end, we are sorted. If we get more than 7 swaps, well, we have improved the sequence a little bit, we wasted a little bit of time, we break out and we try something else. This is the basic idea over here. So we gamble on testing whether something is sorted. So there's basically 2 parts of that. One of them is we need to count the swaps. So basically, we do the same as the partition, and every time we swap, we increment swaps. And then if the swaps is 0, we do an incomplete insertion sort for the 2 ranges. There may be still 2 ranges. And this is how that looks like. It's basically the same as insertion sort, except that we set up a count. Okay, I don't show the count over here. I do show the count, but I misspelled it. Interesting. So basically we go and say if the count has hit the limit, this is basically the condition. If this happens, we know we need to move something, and there's a different condition where we move over here, and in either of these cases we break out and say, okay, the sequence is not sorted, you need to still sort it, and otherwise we say true, and the algorithm can move on. Now if you drop that into, you can actually see that as really solid beta. Now one thing I have to admit, on all of these things, by the way, none of these ideas is mine. All of these ideas I stole from somebody. Quite a number of ideas actually, like the insertion sort thing, the small sort things, were actually stolen from the original quicksort paper written by Tony Hoare in 1961 or something like that. Now, if you got taught quicksort, you probably didn't get taught much of that stuff, I assume. And most people forget that the original paper actually has a second half where it talks about most of these things. And some of these things, like the last optimization, I basically wondered why is the libc++, not the libstutc++, libc++ implementation still better than mine, and I investigated and found this is what they do. So somebody had that idea. I don't know who had the idea. I cannot put a quote to that, but somebody had that idea and it wasn't me. I only implemented these things. Okay, so putting it all together. Okay, so I color-coded it a little bit. Does it help? Probably not. Right, it's basically sort of, there's a small sort over here. This is the sort driver, the white bit. I think the green bit is the partition. And, oh, yeah, the white bit is kind of the actual sort. The red bit is the driver. And I think this is the intro sort or something like that. No, this is the small sort over here. So it's a lot more complicated than we had it originally, right? For comparison, this is what we had originally. So, but reality is that is not quite uncommon, right? Often you start with something like that which works, and it's actually not a bad idea, but it's not there. You need to do more. Okay, let's check. Okay, I still got a few minutes, I think, so I will talk a little bit more about making this thing also more generic. I will do that with a simple implementation because it's really boring to do that in a tiny font. The more generic version is basically, for now we have used int, right? Making it more generic, all right, well, that's a simple idea, right? We can make it a template. Ooh, now people get scared. But that's not really that hard, right? And now we can sort at least every type in a built-in array, which is not that interesting. In C++, we normally operate on something we call iterators, which are pointer-like things. They actually behave like pointers, but are not necessarily pointers. Let's see, more templates. Ooh, actually this change is really small, right? Now, the interesting bit is from here, from the previous version to this version, now you can sort over everything which allows random access. So these are things like vector or DAC or built-in arrays. They all do that. There's a little bit of trickery over here to deduce the the argument type for the partition, but this can even be worked out, so it's not too scary. And this is a near full generic thing. What is not generic yet is, and you may not want to sort your sequence in ascending or descending order, so we may want to change the comparison against the pivot and basically give that a comparison object, and I should probably have given it a default template argument nowadays. And then this comparison, now you can sort it according to whatever criteria you fancy, and this yields goodness. Now, the moment you do that, there is something called the quicksort killer. So if you play with quicksort and you try to figure out whether it's good, you may want to have a quicksort killer. The quicksort killer is basically a custom comparator which basically makes the comparison the worst case for quicksort. And this is basically, it figures out every time it sees a new pair of elements, what is the right place to put the element in to make it bad, which is actually not that hard. The entire logic is actually on that slide. Basically, you store effectively a value, like V would be kind of an indirect value of defining the sort order, which initially is assumed to be initialized with all max. Right? You can feed that into the quicksort. And if you find something which is all max, right, this basically says, oh, we don't know what the order between these things is at the moment. So we assign an order for one of them and we make it the next biggest thing. And we can figure out which is the candidate, which candidate we want to use, which we want to set up. And then we move on. And the candidate thing is basically, all right, there's something which has sort of an order yet. So we set that up. I think there's a little bit of more color coding on the next slides. So it's basically, this logic is essentially trying to figure out, right, if X has no order yet, and but there's a little bit of order hint already given, then we basically make it the next candidate. And then, well, I know the code works. I don't entirely recall how it works, but the idea is you basically feed or delay the knowledge of how do we order things as long as possible until you really need to know. And this actually is bad for quicksort. Okay, so in summary, what I hope I presented is that quicksort is fast when you pull a number of tricks. For the expected case, for what I have tried it with at least, the interesting bit is quicksort really is a hybrid algorithm, hybrid sorting algorithm. There's quicksort in there. There's some other sorting algorithm like merge sort or there's insertion sort in there. There's small sort in there. There's so there's basically and the intrasort. There's something like 5 different sorting algorithms combined to make it actually good. Right. So. Yeah. Oh, you mean in the same? Well, the quicksort killer is actually kind of a really slow way to compare things, but it is intended to expose that the quicksort doesn't do the right thing. Right? It's not, the quicksort killer is not a reasonable predicate. But if you implement a sorting algorithm, you may want to run it with, and you allow specifying a comparison operator, you may want to use a killer predicate to see that it never goes really bad, right? That it always stays n log n or and reasonably close. Yes?
So how efficient is the quicksort killer as compared to a general sequence? So like, if you run like the quicksort killer program against the quicksort one, and then if you run the quicksort normally, how much efficiency do you think?
Well, the quicksort killer is not making things slow or fast. It basically exposes things, right? It's just this I basically just showed. If you want to test a sort implementation, this is one comparison operator you probably want to try this, just to make sure your sort algorithm is on the right track, right? Because in the end, this is probably not all the best ideas, right? We have bright people in the audience, and one of the things we are still looking for is closing the gap between the fast algorithm and the stable algorithm, right? If anybody has a bright idea how to make things stable, stability of sorting is actually something which is frequently enough interesting. That is something like, in many cases you don't care, but if you don't care, you really just use the sort algorithm. But sometimes stability matters. So if we could close that gap so that we don't need to think about which algorithm we use. We always use the best one because it always works right and it's stable. This would be ideal, right? So there's still open research in the space or a space for ideas. And then the other part of that, which I haven't talked about over here at all, this is all just a sequential implementation. Nowadays, any hardware you have has multiple cores, right? Your phone in your pocket, right? It's just ridiculous. So a concurrent version may be interesting as well, right? But you still want to test it with these things. I think you are first.
Yeah, I was wondering, I know Python and I believe Rust and Swift now use an algorithm called TimSort, which is like a hybrid between insertion sort and merge sort, and that's stable as well. I was wondering, performance-wise, how would that compare to, like, say, the hybrid quicksort that you have here?
Okay. I know of TimSort. I have not tried to implement it and compare it, and I have no good sense of comparing something in C++ against something in Python because this is kind of not a level playing ground. So I don't know. It may be an interesting way if you know how to implement TimSort. Give it a go. Compare it. Yes.
Question, but given that you've written the bottom slide of the copyright Bloomberg, you use this optimized sort of internally at work, right?
No. Absolutely not. So copyright Bloomberg is kind of, well, if you join any of the big corporates, you feel a little bit hand-shackled, certainly on things where you do public presentations. So this is the lawyers putting that on. I don't care much, because I also got privileged to, or I got granted allowance to work on my own standard C++ library implementation, which I have, which is online, and this contains that code. So if you want to have that code with a free license, that's fine. You just cannot use the slides.
Right. I was just going to ask us, you mentioned the double with net numbers being a bit of causing problems for some of your optimizations, right?
Yes.
I'm just asking how often that comes up in real world data.
So the annoying bit with NANs being present in doubles, it a little bit depends on where the data comes from. Like I actually work on data distribution for market data, and there should be no NAN in there, right? But the moment you start, well, when I say should, we get data from external sources, and everything happens literally. So I wouldn't trust that. But the moment you do computations, it's fairly easy to end up with a none in your code because somewhere you have a division by 0 or a multiplication 0 times infinity or something strange like that. Or you do computations that just happened, right? And they show up, and then you sort things, and then you're screwed. So in practice, it happens often enough that so the guy who did libs to C++ said they tried it, and basically, even in the pre-release, they already get complaints from people who said, "Oh no, you broke it." I go, "No, you are not right." But they've, well, this is a few years ago, but as far as I can tell, they have not dared moving things out. Yes.
We have another question from online. Would it be easy to make a C++20 concept for sortable iterators?
Well, okay, so the C++ concept for sortable iterators is called random access. That's roughly what it is. So I don't think it makes sense to have concepts on a too fine-grained level. If people don't know what concepts is, don't worry. The idea of concepts is if you have, okay, this is not me losing the thing or something else, but if you have a function template, it may be used, well, the way C++ currently works is, or the slides work, they use anything as template parameter. And you pass something in and the implementation may figure out, oh, this is not right. The idea of concepts is that you have kind of a type declaration of what the generic parameters could be, to say, all right, they follow these, they have these operations with these semantics. And the consensus is that you do not want to have these concepts too fine-grained because people would struggle adhering to all the different things. You only want to have them coarse-grained things like, all right, we have a forward iterator, which is an iterator you can only move in one direction, or bidirectional iterator where you can move iterators forward or back, and random access iterators basically can move iterators, you can jump to arbitrary positions, and all of these efficiently. Okay, and anything else? Otherwise, I would actually be inclined to cut it down because I saw pizza arriving in the back and people get nervous. So enjoy the pizza.
So before everyone goes crazy on the pizza, as a reminder, we are going to be having our AGM voting afterwards. As I previously said, if you haven't got a voting link yet, please go and see Yuto at the back. Same if you're wanting to run in the last minute. And secondly, please have like one slice first, then you can have seconds if there are any left. Last time we saw someone eating half a pizza folded up. So please don't do that. Anyway, have fun.
Hi everyone, just so you know we're going to be starting again soon, so if you are wanting to run into anything last minute, just talk to Yuto now, and yeah.
Hello everyone, we'll be starting in 3 minutes, so can you please go back to your seats? Anyone who wants to still run for a role and hasn't put their name in yet, could you please come up to the back and register for any roles if you're still wanting to run for them? Everyone else, can you please go to your seats and sit down and get ready? Hello, everyone. So, to start the night off, we're going to lay out a couple of ground rules, essentially. So when we start our talks, everything that is not an executive position will be limited to 1 minute. After you hit that 1 minute, you're going to start hearing the committee loudly start applauding from the back. We encourage you to join in. It's always a laugh. However, before we can get to our speeches, what we have is 3 constitutional amendments. So the first one is introducing an EDI rep on the committee. This way we can keep all of our members safe and we can keep all events running smoothly while kind of making it a safe space for everyone involved. Our second one is a cleanup of our constitution. Currently we have a bunch of duplication, you know, a clause here, a clause there, saying the exact same thing, a couple of duplicated clauses from USA. And the second one that we have in that category is implementing a couple of mandatory USA clauses. So every year USA puts out some clauses and we have to incorporate them into our constitution. So with all of that out of the way, you will soon be receiving links on voting. At that point, you'll be able to vote on both the constitutional amendments and everyone who's running for positions. With that out of the way, we will have our first candidate for president, Ben Mcconville.
Hello. Oh. Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. So, my name is Ben Mcconville, and some background information on me is I was born in Scotland, and I'm currently living in the US. As well as this, for the last year, I have been CompSoc's first-year representative. And because of this, I've learned about the internal workings and functionality of how CompSoc works, as well as how we communicate with our sponsors, as well as just inside of the committee meetings, how we generally interact with each other to represent you, all the members of CompSoc. Now, throughout the year, I've participated in a few events, as well as helped organise things such as Hack the Burg, where I participated for 14 hours And during that time, honestly, it was amazing to see just how engaged and how determined everybody was to work on their projects. And honestly, watching everybody doing that inspired me a lot to really set up more events like this in the future. As well as this, currently myself and Ashley, our third-year representative, as well as Kim, we are in the process of organising the Informatics Ball, which is going to happen on the 16th of April. So please come to that. And during this process, some of the things that I really took away from this is just how important it is to have a well-formulated team. And because of my past experience in the committee, being able to actually introduce all of the new members that'll be joining is something I'll be able to do and help with the process and just make it much easier so we can all focus on the thing that's most important, which is setting up events for you guys, the members. Now, the final thing is that, oh crap. No, but during this process, it's really all about just representing you guys. And at the end of the day, some things that I'd like to implement in the future is, with events specifically, is during the week, I'd like to have events that are set each day per week, possibly code golfing events, where we can get everybody to join in and work together. Okay, well, thank you very much, and off to the next person.
So, you've all heard of him. Our next presidential candidate is Japjot Singh.
Hello, guys. Unfortunately, walking up here has made me realize I've forgotten my speech. So, all right, I'll speak from my heart. So, my name is Japjot Singh, and I am I'm in a first year. I'm doing electronics and computer science. And firstly, I think it would be a good place to start thinking from why I would like to be the president of CompSoc. Well, firstly, I'm an ambitious person that feels that taking a lead can help greatly improve a society's position. Secondly, I feel that CompSoc's impressive set of values CompSoc has an impressive set of values which will drive me every day to take 1% better for everybody This continuous growth will help us make Comsoc a really good society and help us get from number 16th university to number 1. Finally, I would like to build Comsoc's presence in the industry even more as it has just now. I would like Comsoc to have a strong presence in the industry, which allows them to have a deep correlation with the employers and can help them make more internships and stuff like that. Let's talk about my core values are for respect. I feel that I'm a very respectful individual who respects both my peers as well as my juniors. Secondly, my second core value is integrity. I feel that I'm very integral in my course of work. I don't lie. I don't make, if I made a mistake, I confess up to it, because I feel that if you make a mistake and then confess, there's nothing wrong with that. And thirdly, I have a very deep sense of service ingrained in me from the RAF. I feel that going that extra 1 mile will really help make you a better individual and help you really make a part of a good team member. Finally, my final skill is E for excellence. I try my very best to make sure that everything I do is done to 100% standard. I'm putting each and every single iota of my effort in to make the thing as good as I can. All of these skills make me an excellent candidate for presidency, and I look forward to your vote. Thank you so much.
And for our final presidential candidate, we have Maciej Zoltos.
Hi everyone, my name is Matthias, and I'm a second-year computer science student. I'm from Hungary, and I'm here as Comsoc because I made a lot of genuine connections with people that I like. Last semester, in the beginning of September, we had a hike, and which was organized by the current committee, where we went up to Arthur's Seat. And during that hike, I've been running forward and backwards the whole line of people because all the different groups of people were just cutting out, and we weren't exactly getting up to Arthur's Seat that smoothly. And that time I realized that I need to get a lot more involved. Later on, in November, I ran for VP, which I lost, unfortunately. But now I'm running for president. I'm running for president because I have experience in business, I run my own business, and that's how I found my university studies. This allows me to help Comsoc expand its list of sponsors without putting that much extra effort in. If I'm elected tomorrow morning, I'm already at the Scottish AI Summit, and I will be expanding the list of sponsors of Comsoc. Over doing these duties, I will be organizing hikes regularly, and I will be organizing trips, one each semester, for Comsoc. I would like to help everybody feel included. I would like to help everybody have a good time here, because the best part of Comsoc is that we are all kind of weird, and we all have weird jokes and weird cultures and like weird memes, and we just love each other. At least I know that I love a lot of people here. Those I don't know, I hope I will love you too. Thank you.
So actually, don't go back to your seat. What I'd like to do would be to invite all of the presidential candidates up on the floor and open the floor up to open Q&A.
So this is a question for all of the candidates. I know, Matthias, you've all brought up experience in some regard. I was wondering, given the bulk of the work with Comsoc is event organising as opposed to general business organisation, do any of you have specific experience with running events? And just to all three of you.
So I personally have hosted a lot of events for my friends, for like 20+ people this semester. I've been brought up in a family where
Okay. So as in terms of events, I feel that I have had some experience of making events as well. Similarly to Matthias, I have also come from a very friendly family, and I have been taught how to host people. But I feel that in the terms of events comes from how you experience the world and how you'd like others to experience it with you. I feel that in terms of events, I have experienced and made events in the Royal Air Force Air Cadets where we have a very strong sense of punctuality and we have a very strong sense of discipline, which I feel that both of these things combined make me a really good planner. And as in terms of experience, I have planned events as part of the Year 1 Rep program, which has been quite thrilling for me. Thank you.
Hello. So as I previously said, myself and Kim, as well as Ashley, we've been in the process of organising the Informatics Ball, and during that whole process it takes a lot of time and we have weekly meetings, so I'm definitely aware of all the things that we need to take into account, as well as how we organise with different event planners or different event stations and getting in contact with all the people that are coming to the events. So yeah.
Can you hear me? All right. So, from one former president to another. The role of a president is a very outward-facing role, and that includes both being able to represent the student body, the informatics student body, as well as talking to corporate sponsors. How do you feel you can fulfill these two different roles?
Can you repeat the last part?
How do you feel you can fulfill these two different roles? Corporate sponsors as well as representing your student body.
Okay. So as being first year rep, I definitely had the fair share of seeing how the committee works as well as how we organise events. And through this process, I've also seen just how important it is to actually get feedback and be able to be aware of how the students or members of the society feel. So throughout this process, especially when it's come to organising certain events, we've always seen just how important it is to get outreach and feedback from all the people participating in these given events. So, yeah.
So I feel that in terms of being present, you need to be present in the community to have a sense of being approachable and being able to, so that anybody can communicate with you at the ground level, basically. And I feel that I have maintained that sense of persona for very long, as most of the people in the CompSoc Discord know about me, thankfully. And I feel that this position I will only further expand into the future. And secondly, as talking about the talking to other people goes, I'll tell you guys a funny story of mine. So once I was thinking of planning a Year 1 an event, and I went to my phone and I searched up who is the head of school informatics, and then I called them up, and then they're like, yeah, and I said, hello, I'm first year rep, my name is Jabjot, do you know what I can do? I want to make an event, I want to have a rep for a pizza night. And then they said, okay, you want to go for a pizza night? I'm not the right person to talk to, but that sounds like a good initiative. You better go and call Neil. So I feel that having that sense of courage, being able to go and talk to anybody, regardless of their position, makes me a really good candidate for presidency. Thank you.
For facing the student body, spend a lot of time in a Peloton Tower, so I would be very close to all of you. So anytime you would have any issues, you can come to me, you can tell any feedback that you have about an event or about somebody who bullied you. Look at me, I can take care of it. Towards the sponsors and our partners, I have a lot of experience in customer acquisition and product delivery. Basically, I can get them to say yes to what we want, and we'll have a good time. Thank you.
So we actually have another question from online. How and in what ways do you think CompSoc should support SIGs and related societies, specifically TARDIS, the student-run compute facility?
So, in my opinion, the most important thing that we need to do first is ask the question, which SIGs have interest? Once we've done that, the SIGs that have interest need to be formed. I would like to revive their committees, 2 or 3 people who are interested in them. and then use those 6 to organize 6 specific events. So if we can, any event that we organize should be in collaboration with the SIG, so our SIG culture is revived. Also, I would like to allocate resources in terms of money and attention towards 6 personally.
As far as SIGs go, I feel that it's most important to expand how aware are people about certain SIGs. For example, I remember I didn't know that game dev SIG existed in like November when I was already in the university for like 2 months. And I feel that as far as SIGs go, there could be a lot of work that we can do as a committee, as a society, to introduce the passion for SIGs early on into the year. For example, in the Fresher Week, we have events that show that, okay, showcase what certain SIGs have done. For example, like SIGWAG or Keep SIG, what their members are passionate about, and really imbibe that sense of community within the Fresher community. Thank you.
So when it comes to the SIGs, it all just depends on whereabouts the demand is, and that comes from getting feedback from you guys. And specifically when it comes to TARDIS, there is a lot of politics that goes on there, but it's definitely something that we need to look at in the future. Specifically, it's something that I feel a lot of people are passionate about, and something that needs to be reignited for next year.
Yeah, so I got one question. I think for appealing to like new members and new people you want to bring into CompSoc, what's one thing you would either want to change about CompSoc as it is currently, or introduce into CompSoc that you think would help to bring in new members?
So currently CompSoc is a great society. However, I feel like being able to have a further outreach into possible other schools is a very big thing. Specifically, I feel like in the future we could look towards possibly the School of Engineering or the School of Mathematics, and see how we could work together to create possible projects or hacks that really bring people together as a community and as School of Edinburgh.
So as far as, sorry, could you repeat your question again, please?
So what's one thing that you would either want to change or introduce into CompSoc to help bring in new members?
That's a great question. I feel that to bring in new members, we need to build a sense of that the CompSoc is not limited to computer science. It's not limited to computer science subject, not limited to people only studying computer science at university. I would like to build a sense of CompSoc to be accessible to anybody who has an interest in computer science, making electronics, doing SOC stuff. And a way of doing this is having interconnected society events, basically events like Ben said, with the School of Engineering and like with Formula Student and stuff like that. If you have collaborative events like that, it will make CompSoc seem like a place where anybody can join, rather than only people who are taking computer science subjects. I remember one of my friends here, he's doing maths, but he's still part of the CompSoc because he feels that it's his interest to join the SIGINT stuff. He's interested in the cybersecurity stuff. And I feel that we should imbibe this sense in everybody into university.
So, in short, we'll poach them from other societies. And in long, I think the easiest route is not to deal with the schools, but with the other societies. So first start with the other STEM societies and organize events with them in collaboration where our fields intersect and make love with each other. And after that, I would like to expand us to humanities students. I know you might not like them, but nowadays humanities courses are basically very advanced and specialized data science courses. So they do learn like a lot of Python and data visualizations, so they suffer a lot of the same stuff we suffer at FDS. Yeah, that's what I would like to do. Thank you.
Okay, I think that is all the questions we have for you now. So we will be moving on to the Vice Presidency role next. So thank you very much. Okay, so next we have the Vice Presidency role opening up with Christoph Grickiel.
Greetings, everyone. So, my name is Chris. Some of you may know me as Akas on the Discords. And I, as you may have noticed, am running for the vice president role in this society. Naturally, first of all, I will help with whatever the next president is going to do. I will definitely want to include more events in person. I'm sure everybody misses those after the 2 years of COVID. However, I have my own ambitions to take care of as well. In particular, I would like to revive Game Dev SIG. For that, I would like to create an annual game jam. And you might ask yourself why? Because it's fun. Game jams are fun, trust me. And you are gonna enjoy it. Besides, there's gonna be free pizza. What else could you want? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next, we have Suparna Mandal.
Hello everyone, my name is Suparna and I'm currently a first year student. I'm studying electronics and computer science, and when I first came into the uni, I barely knew anything about coding, and I was so overwhelmed, like seeing this huge city and everything. And overall, being a computer science student in this university was so overwhelming. But I just stumbled upon a CompSoc event, and I just came along. And over time, I met a lot of cool people in the society, and some of them are my friends who are actually sitting over there right now. And I've had really close bonds with them. So overall, this society holds a really good place in my heart, since I have made so many connections over here during my first year. And now I would like to do something for the society. So I decided, why not just run for vice president? Also, I like free pizza, so I thought I'll just give it to all of you guys also. So, you know, added bonus. But yeah, on top of that, I spent a lot of time in my first year, like studying in Appleton, and I realized one thing. We have a kitchen on the 6th floor, but that's the microwaves. There's nothing. Like guys, what's the point of the kitchen? I mean, might as well add stuff. And okay, so moving on from there, I've gone to some of the Comsoc merch and stuff, and it looks cool and all, but okay guys, I'll be ending it for now. If you want to know about more of my points, just read my manifesto. Thank you.
So now that Suparna has sit down and gotten all comfy, can we get all the VP candidates to stand back up and come to the front? And as before, the floor is open to questions. Same people.
Hello again. So, as VP, one of the main responsibilities outlined within the Constitution is organising the SCMUs. And especially in recent years, the main issue with SCMUs is finding enough speakers, either from academia or from the student body. Do either of you have any plans for how you could improve on that issue, or another way around it?
So obviously, for now, I don't have any concrete plans, but the first thing that comes to my head is that I would like to cold mail and cold reach a lot of companies, and hopefully encourage them and show them that Edinburgh University is such a good place, and we have such a high ranking, and the computer science students are amazing. So I'm sure they would love to invest in us and would love to come and deliver some talks. And I'm sure a lot of us, after we graduate, yeah?
Sorry, just to be clear, specifically what I'm asking about are not from companies, either from academics or from students.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So from academics, I would love to approach other universities with whom, and other societies from other universities like Comsoc, like from other universities like Imperial or University College London, and their respective communities for computer science, and collaborate with them and perhaps ask speakers from those universities to come and give some insight and talks over here. If so.
Right. So we have a lot of very talented people in this university. I'm sure we can find speakers for our events. Besides, I know that you mentioned that you're not asking about companies, but I'd like to say that in terms of my other plans, I would also like to get somebody to talk about game dev a bit. And in fact, I do have a friend here at the Rockstar Games whom this might turn into something, just saying.
So both of you guys have, in your speeches, have discussed free pizzas for all of us. So I'm wondering, how do you think that will be financed in the long term? Like, so do you have any plans to increase our budget for CompSoc, or do you have any plans to do that?
Well, naturally, we will look for more sponsors. That's where the money comes from, you know?
Okay, before I start giving away the secrets, I would just like to say, trust me guys, I'm very good at convincing people. I'm gonna get more pizza, don't worry.
I got a question specifically for Chris. Chris mentioned bringing back game jams and doing stuff with the game society. I noticed that there's been some concerns raised about the what's the word I'm looking for? The interest in these types of events. So, what would you be looking to do to bring to make sure that these game, like the game jam and all that, is more successful than it has been in the past, and really bring people into it?
Well, first things first, we need to be realistic about what we can do. Understand that game dev is like a very niche thing. And I understand that many people will not be able to really commit to it. Therefore, my plan is to actually make events that are accessible for anyone. After all, we can just talk about games in terms of game design. That's always fun. What else did I want to say? Escaped my mind, sorry.
My question is to both candidates. What is your ideal pizza?
Well, for me it's the classic pepperoni. Like, you can't go wrong with that.
I mean, we're supposedly computer scientists and we're supposed to be weird. So make it as weird as it gets, but it should just taste good, you know. So I would say, don't put pineapple in your pizza, that's it.
So my next question is, since you said no pineapple, my next question is to Chris, pineapple or no pineapple?
Banana.
I'm sorry, but I have to ask another question about pizza. What do you think about cucumber on pizza?
It's a big turn off, I'm sorry. But if any of you guys like it, we can do something about it and get like 10% of the pizzas with cucumbers, you know?
What the hell is wrong with you?
I think we have one last question from online. Actually, no, two more questions, one from online. Sparna, you say that in your manifesto you have experience with how the society functions. How come so? Did you have a committee role before?
So I'm actually a program rep for first year right now, and so I believe I have a overall understanding of how societies at the Edinburgh University work and overall interacting with the students and getting feedback from them and organizing events. So that way and also I was a part of CompSoc as a member in first year. So looking from the outside and also having given my experience in my first year working for a uni position, I believe myself to be well experienced to be able to cope up with whatever challenges that I have to face. So yeah.
And the question for each of you is, do you have a favorite STMU talk from this year?
Sorry?
Do you have a favorite STMU talk from this year?
I think all of them look good, to be honest.
Well, Well, for me, it's also a tough choice, but honestly, I will have to go with Vicky's talk about SIGINT. It was really something else.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions we currently have for the VP role. So next up, we have exactly one candidate. And can you please give it up for the upcoming, hopefully upcoming Secretary, Kshitij Sharma.
Hi, everyone. Like Artie mentioned, my name is Kshitij. I'm a first-year computer science and AI student. You might know me from Discord as Horizon Focus because I am terminally online like most people here, and we really do need to touch some grass. Let's be real. I'm mainly running for secretary because I wasn't on the committee before this, but I'm close friends with a lot of members within the committee. And interestingly enough, I joined CompSoc before I even got an offer from the university because 1583 does 1583 things and takes 8 months to reply to admissions. But CompSoc was such an inviting place with so many senior students and everyone just helping me out and making sure I knew what I was getting into while joining the uni. Another reason for running for secretary was I had a similar role within high school where I was in charge of organizing events as well as taking minutes in meetings which were run amongst the student council as well as executive roles within the school. So I feel like I have experience within the set of responsibilities which are required for the secretary. And I am pretty good at GitHub, I'll say, as good as you can get with pull requests and commits. So that's pretty much it, and I hope I'm better than the other candidate, Ron, because I've heard a lot about Ron. Thank you.
Finally, we have a candidate who hasn't sprinted back to their chair before questions, so the floor is open.
Okay, then, what's your favorite Git command?
Oh, it has to be git blame, because then I know it was someone else's fault.
Nice.
Do you partake in the recreational spreadsheets?
Not anymore, but back in the days, yes. Event organizing without Excel doesn't really work out.
Sorry, I know I'm a bit of a repeat customer here, but do you have any experience with managing people or delegating tasks, given the secretary is mainly responsible for making sure things stay on the rails and then usually fails?
Right, thank you for that question. Actually, I do, because within my school, I was technically in charge of President of Innovation was the title which was given to me, which led to me being in charge of multiple departments across the school hackathon, the school robotics, etc., where I had to delegate duties across different groups of students in different grades, so I have experience with that. I also organized our school's version of a TED-Ed talk back in 2019, before COVID was a thing. And that was, again, a very big team which I had to lead and ensure that the event works out well. So I would say I have a fair amount of experience, but I feel like leadership and delegating tasks is not something you can ever be perfect at. So this would be another opportunity for me to develop the skills which I think I learned initially in high school.
I got the mic, so sorry, Dot. All right, so my question is, if you could change anything about CompSoc right now, what would it be?
That's actually, I can't really think of an answer on top of my head without parroting points which were said by other people, because not to sound just like, the committee, the society is pretty good as it is right now, but I agree with the points that were brought up right now, as well as before when I ran for first-year rep, where the bigger problem initially was outreach into other schools, as well as outreach into incoming first-year students, because while some of us were very involved with CompSoc, I know a lot of people aren't, including even membership on Discord or any other events which we attend. So if I do become secretary, my primary wish would be that right on from Freshers Week, we work on integrating more first years into the incoming batch, from the incoming batch into CompSoc, to like not only increase our numbers, but also make sure that everyone is included within the society.
I'm just wondering, what are your long-term goals for CompSoc? Like, what do you think you plan to achieve at the end of your position?
Well, I think as a secretary, one of my most important responsibility would be to make sure that any events which we already organize keep happening in the same way they do. For example, well, same way or in fact even better. For example, the informatics ball, the yearly author seat hike during Freshers Week, PawNet, which is conducted by SIGINT, Hack the Bro, which is also conducted under the banner of CompSoc. So for A, ensuring those events occur in the same excellent manner. B would be that any other ideas that the committee comes up with, because I'll be honest, I don't have any concrete plans for events yet, but once the new committee is elected and we do come up with ideas as a group, I would do my level best to ensure they're implemented in the best way possible. And like I mentioned before, my third would be to increase the amount of marketing we do into other societies and other schools and each incoming first-year batch to make sure that CompSoc will, sorry if that was me, that CompSoc will continue to be the largest tech society in Scotland.
We have 2 more questions from online. So what does maintaining transparency in your manifesto mean?
Right, so currently the meeting minutes from each CompSoc meeting, which happens weekly, are published online on GitHub. Again, this happens in well, I got to know of this because of the commits being logged within SigWeb. More transparency about what exactly is going on in the meetings in the form of maybe more detailed minutes or just visibility of where the minutes are being posted would be my initial idea. But again, this is something I would discuss with the incoming committee and do my best to implement.
And one final, not so serious question. If you had any superpower, what would it be?
The ability to finish my assignments.
Thank you very much, Fittage. So it's, as some of you I've seen have already realized, the voting links are now live, although we ask people to wait until they hear people's speeches till they vote. So next, we have for the position of treasurer, we have Anand Gupta. Either one. Either one.
Hi everyone, my name is Anand Gupta, and as you guys just heard, I'm running for the position of treasurer. I would like to start with some relevant experience I have in this field. I was the head of the computing club in my school. We did organize, it was essentially this one large tech fest that we used to organize annually, and it had everything from a game jam to competitions where you had to essentially code your way out of small problems. And it was a really fun event to organize, and I had to obtain funding, manage which event gets what, and it's something that I feel is really similar to what I would be having to do as treasurer, and something I do have relevant experience in. That's my experience. What I would like to talk about is CompSoc in general. A year ago, such a meetup was not possible. This huge derailment which we had because of the pandemic, it's about time we are slowly, as right here today, we are getting back to normalcy. And to continue and have much more meetups like this, we would require the funding and managing it well. I feel that is something I would be capable of doing, and we are already off to such an amazing start with this year's committee. I would like to start making, sorry, I just skipped ahead. One thing which I would like to do, I would like to start making some more CompSoc merch. I could, such as the stickers already there, I would like to hopefully go for some more hoodies or this general merch where we could actually just show everyone that, okay, we are from CompSoc. To sum up, I also promise to make sure that I utilize all the funds we have to the fullest, and of course, have even bigger and better events. Lastly, the one promise I can make to you all is to always have funds available for our ever favorite Chevernos pizza. Thank you very much. I hope you vote for me.
Thank you very much, Anand. So our next candidate is Sophie Batta-Madden.
Hi, so for those that don't know me, I'm Sophie. I'm a second year studying data science. So to get right into it, why should you vote me in as treasurer? So firstly, I have the experience to back me up. In sixth form, I was the school council's treasurer, so I oversaw the financial activities of all the school societies, as well as allocating resources to events like prom and productions. So the role required me to coordinate with different groups and make sure that they were happy and that they received a proportionate amount of the school's budget. So those logistical skills transfer directly to the role of treasurer in CompSoc too. Furthermore, through my placements at financial companies, I know my way around a balance sheet, which I'm sure will come in handy for the financial report at the end of the year. In terms of CompSoc in particular, I know, well, hopefully we'll be moving on from the periods of limited indoor seating and not being able to share food. So we'll be hosting more events and bigger in-person events, which will require more funding, more budgeting, and more, obviously, pizzas, specifically Chevernos pizzas, because TV had tried their best, but it just wasn't quite the same. So I'll ensure that each event, both big and small, for the events that we're all looking forward to, like the Inf Ball and the monthly STMUs, as well as the small SIG events, get enough funding for a really good time. So with that all being said, I thank you for listening. I was Sophie, and I hope you can throw me your vote.
Thank you very much. And can we, yes, finally, people are learning.
Hi there. So at the moment, the role of a treasurer consists of knowing what money the society has, knowing what's coming in, what's going out, and to effectuate payments. First question, do you envision anything more from the role other than being just a conduit for these payments? And the second question is, the society has a rather large budget and can sometimes have a surplus at the end of the year. Now, normally this surplus would carry over to the next financial year and the committee would use that money. I know this is a very broad question, but do you envision doing anything else with that surplus, any sort of investments or anything of the like?
There we go. Who wants it?
So for the role of treasurer, other than just currently allocating funds and sort of reimbursing SIG's events, it would also be good if the treasurer had an active role in trying to get funding as well alongside the president, because I feel like that's important for the treasurer to be aware of what is the inflow as well as just the outflow. In terms of the remainder, I think that would be really good to put into, this was mentioned by a few of the president reps, really developing the SIG culture and creating projects that CompSoc can work on, and of course, creating a, I think, like reducing the cost of the Inf Ball tickets also might be a good use of that money.
I feel a good use of surplus could be, as I mentioned, some of more CompSoc merch to be developed, and also as my fellow has said, that we could use surplus for the SIGs, and I genuinely feel that using that surplus for SIGs could lead to SIGs being more bigger and people being more aware of it if they happen and occur at a larger scale. Definitely, the treasurer being a part of approaching the sponsors for money does seem like a good idea, as we are managing the funds, and it would be great to see, and we could actually probably help in obtaining them better. Yeah.
So we have an online question from our much beloved Kit B. Can they have all the money that is surplus?
If I win, I should definitely, actually I won't publicly admit to bribing for a vote, but maybe check your Discord personal chats.
No.
Hi, so my question is for Anand. So as a former treasurer, what's one thing that I've had to do is I've had to manage expectations and actually deliver disappointing news to manage expectations on the budget and stuff like that. So has there been a time where you've actually had to deliver such kind of not so ideal news and manage expectations?
To not being able to meet up to expectations for some of the events, I feel the closest I've come to that is during the school tech fest to be. I don't think that was me. Oh, okay. Thanks. With the school tech fest, what we had to do was at the end we were planning on doing a lot of huge trophies and stuff like that, but we simply did not have enough funds. And even though these were just the expectation and the planning of a few people, a group of 6, 7 students, that's it. It was still to be realistic that it wasn't possible. So that was something I had to do, but nothing other than that, yeah.
Yeah, so I mentioned previously that I was the treasurer in my Owsell for their council. Which meant that I had to deal with a lot of different societies, including the societies formed by 13-year-olds. And I had to greatly disappoint them and tell them that they couldn't actually build a rocket with their funds, and a plastic bottle would have to do.
Hi. So a lot of the candidates tonight have talked about putting more effort into SIGs and having more events. How would you, if you were treasurer, sort of distribute funds between SIGs, given that they have kind of a difference in interest between them?
Well, firstly, we'd have to get to talk to all the SIGs. Having the SIGs being well-defined, we'd have to have some kind of committee meeting with all of their leaders, and then they can pitch to us, I guess, what kind of budget they think they deserve or they require. And then hearing that, we can make a decision which optimizes the use of CompSoc's budget.
I feel like there would be 2 factors to allocating the budget. Firstly, what the demand for that specific SIG is. And secondly, again, as we are being questioned right now, in a similar manner where we are the ones questioning, just have all the SIGs give their own presentation, and based on that, we could allocate the budget.
Is there an event, past or present, that you would choose to allocate more funds than usual to? Which one would it be?
More funds than usual to an event. Probably an event I would like to do is something like the Game Jam that was mentioned. That is an event I would actually like to allocate funds to and hopefully do a large game jam, yeah.
I think, difficult question, because I didn't get to attend the Inf Ball last year, but I hear it's supposed to be a very grand event, so I do think that it should take precedence in which event has the most funding. Otherwise, I believe that the amount of pizzas that STM use currently, I think, is ideal. So I wouldn't. Do you disagree? Okay. Well, hey, it's either TV at Pizza or Bruno's. So, yeah. So Inf Ball would be most likely my answer.
I think we can have one last question, and I have a question. I mean, we might have to take another one afterwards. But what is your experience, to both, with negotiating with large companies?
I'm going to be honest, I don't have much experience negotiating with large companies. I've had to negotiate with society heads who wanted more funding that they could, that we could possibly allocate them, which is always quite a sort of headbutting affair because they know what they want, but we know that we can't provide them with enough funds, especially when we have a lot of other societies to provide for. So it's about finding the most optimal allocation of resources, given we've got to make everyone happy.
So I feel that I do not have a lot of experience negotiating with large companies per se, but to obtain funding for school events, what I thought was to approach school alumni who were, again, part of the clubs of just interested in the same field. And that worked out really well. So that's basically the experience I have regarding negotiation. But yeah, I really think that working with alumni, because they are actually really interested in, first of all, because they would be from Edinburgh University, they would be interested in funding us. And because they hopefully were part of CompSoc or something similar, they would really like to enjoy it. Thank you.
Largely covered our kind of key committee positions at the moment. We will be trying to cut down the number of questions after each presentation. So next we have our role for graphics designer, Margot Zagorka.
Hi everyone, I'm Margot, and I'm a second year student who is running for the role of graphic designer. I will use my skills, past experience, creativity to contribute to CompSoc and wider community. For the past year, I performed the role of technical officer at the Russian-speaking society, and my responsibilities covered developing society website to increase the society online presence. I achieved this by creating promotional and social materials. Computer Science Society is a place where innovation, creativity, and thinking outside the box are celebrated. And I believe my skills and past experience will be a valuable asset to the society through innovative and creative solutions and designs that will attract amazing people, hence members, incredible speakers, and great sponsors. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, so does anyone have any questions?
What's your favorite color?
I would go for dark.
So another question from online. How much experience do you have delivering weird formats such as premultiplied alpha, etc. for video presentations such as CompSoc is doing today?
Sorry, could you repeat the last part, please?
So what experience do you have delivering weird formats such as premultiplied alpha, etc. for video, for example, how we're presenting here today?
Well, I had some experience with After Effects because I was creating videos to promote the educational consultancy. So I believe that would answer that question. Any more questions? Thank you.
So next we have our role of TechSec, and first we have Arjun Naha.
Hi, I'm Arjun Naha. I'm a first-year computer science student, and I'm running for technical secretary. So just a little bit about what that is. So that's maintaining services, websites, and applications that CompSoc runs, as well as servers and things. So I was lucky to take a gap year before I came to university, and I worked for one of Europe's biggest software engineering teams. So I was able to get a lot of experience there, not only developing and deploying apps, but going beyond that, being able to interview candidates and encouraging high school STEM girls. We brought them and did workshops with HTML, etc. So one of the things I believe we should bring back is TARDIS. So it had a very, very long history as part of the informatics department, and we obviously need to handle that gently because there's a bit of politics going on with the department. But I think it's a really important thing to bring back because student compute is probably not quite give enough control to students, and it would be cool to get students being able to rack servers and things. So that's why I should vote for me for TechSec. Thank you very much.
So next for TechSec, we have Jacob Walters, but as everyone knows him, we have Greg.
Hi, yes, so as Art introduced me, my actual name is Jacob, but a lot of you might know me as Greg. I've been very active in both the second year Discord server and the CompSoc one as well. Namely for the second year Discord server, I actually maintain and run our very own Owen bot, which handles a lot of activities on the server. Thank you. I have got a lot of experience with running and deploying servers on multiple different operating systems. And I previously, at my high school, was president for the Robotics Society, or the Robotics Club even, sorry. Which involved not only managing the club and its day-to-day activities, but also managing like the websites and the sort of public face on that behalf. And I believe that I would be able to utilize these skills well for ComSoc, if given the chance. Thank you.
Work. It's on. Oh, it's on. Hello, I'm the current technical secretary. Okay. Can both of you go over your basic experiences with Linux, sysadmin, and basic web development?
Yeah, sure. So when I worked last year, I was a front-end developer, so I've got quite a lot of heavy experience with React, HTML, other web technologies. And then sysadmin, so I also run a startup on the side, and we run quite a big, we run a lot of servers on AWS, so that's Docker, which are Linux-based as well. So a lot of sysadmin experience as well.
Hi, so I've been using Linux full-time for just over 9 years now, I think. Shut up. I've, as part of the Robotics Club again, that involved managing servers there on a slightly larger scale. We didn't use any sort of deployment tools such as Docker or Ansible or anything, just because it wasn't really on that level of scale. But I have had some experience with like, small sort of containers and like sandbox environments. I've recently been switching over to softwares like technologies such as Nix and Greeks for declarative software deployment, which I think could be quite well utilized for reproducible builds or something for SigWeb, for example.
Question for Greg. I've heard some rumors that you might be a category theorist. Would you be able to respond to these accusations?
Those rumors are completely unfounded, and a monad is not just a monad is not just a monad in the category of end-effectors.
And just one last question from myself. What's your experience with securing cloud-based images?
Yeah, so when I'm building my startup, so we do a lot of security to make sure that all stays safe. So keeping containers behind firewalls and exposing them through things like load balancers, etc.
I don't have much experience directly with securing, but I have been doing CTS for a good number of years now, and I have been SIGINT adjacent basically since joining the university, so I'm sure it's a skill that I would be able to learn pretty quickly.
Thank you very much.
Please, good luck.
Next, we have our two candidates for Social Sec. Firstly, Ashley Roberts.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Ashley. I'm currently the third year rep, but you probably know me from organising Infball with Ben, which is why I'm running for a Social Sec, because organising Infball, which is going to be the best night of the year, has been it's been very fun and I've really enjoyed it. And I feel like with the current events for our society, it's really great to see them opening up again and becoming, more, becoming in person again and everything like that. But I feel like they could be pushed further and we could do better. And I am very excited to make that the case. So yeah, vote for me.
And our next candidate, Amy Yin. Are you already here?
Hello. A spectre is haunting Appleton Tower. The spectre of a microwave or something. Actually, that's not the speech I prepared for this, but thank you all for your support when I was running for school rep, and I am actually going to be school rep next year, by the way. Wink. But anyway, I am actually a very sociable person. I think I am very... and that makes me a very suitable candidate for the role of social secretary. For example, I've been to the Peer Tree, all the bars in Teviot, what other ones are there? Brass Monkey, Banshee Labyrinth. Actually, I should stop listing these, but like you get the idea. I'm not actually an alcoholic. I'm just a social drinker. But apart from that, of course, so we all have pub nights, pub crawls as usual, and also based on the amount of climbers we have in the society, we cannot. I think we should have more hikes. I don't know. Lots of more food-based events probably, because everyone likes food. And also, I think that as the largest tech society in Europe, we can do with more social media presence, for example, more active on Instagram and all that. And I would be familiar with social media campaigning since I just did it in order to run for school rep. So yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, so what's your favorite CompSoc event you've been to? And what is your favorite pizza?
My favorite CompSoc. My favorite event.
Your favorite event, yeah, the best event ever.
Well, I've helped organise a lot of the ones at Pear Tree. So I'm kind of biased towards those ones. I always think we all have a great time. We met at Pear Tree, actually, Lorenzo. So yeah, I love the Pear Tree ones. The film nights at Brass Monk, like Amy mentioned, are also very fun, yeah. My favorite pizza, I've recently given up vegetarianism, and I'm very obsessed to have pepperoni back in my life, so it's gonna have to be pepperoni.
Actually, I'm very big on films, and I quite enjoyed the movie nights that we have over at Brass Monkey as well. And my favorite pizza is Nutella. Have you not had Nutella pizza? Stop laughing. Actually, get it.
A very standard question that we always ask of social sec candidates are obviously a lot of CompSoc's events are alcohol related, but obviously not everyone in the society drinks. So usually we would ask what plans do you have for non-alcoholic events. However, I want to go a bit more general than that. Do you have any plans for events which are either non-alcohol related or just completely different to, like a completely novel idea compared to what we would ordinarily have?
Yeah, so I help organize a lot of the flesh market events with Amir as well. And we've had a lot of those in the daytime. They've been a lot less alcohol-based because a lot of people don't like to drink, like you say. We've had cafe talks discussing special focus areas. So for the Flesh Market Society, it's not going to be about computers, but for CompSoc, it would be, more in those lines. Also, just cafe-based socials and stuff like that. What was the second part of your question? Sorry.
Just have you any novel, completely unrelated to other ones we've had before? Just any cool ideas you've got?
Cool ideas. Apart from more daytime things, because I feel like a lot of the things we do happen at night, which I guess, because we're all very busy people. But I don't know. I'll have to talk to the society and find out.
So for non-alcoholic events, I am aware that we currently already do coffee crawls and things like that, and I think that's a very good precedent that we can continue, and that we should also touch more grass and go hiking or something. Yeah, well, and as for a completely new event, like a novel one that we've not ever done yet, I think, especially since we don't have as many non-alcoholic events, we can have things such as potlucks or barbecues, perhaps in the meadows, especially because I've seen other people doing it and it looks fun. Yep.
Hello. I'm going to be reading out a question from the current Social Secretary, Paula. I'm sorry, my voice. She says, organizing events requires good time management and good social skills. Would you say you have any experience that would help with this? And especially being fourth years, how would you balance your university work and writing a project simultaneously as your job?
First part of that question, the experience. So like I said, I'm organizing or helping organize with Ben and Kim this year's INF-Ball. I'm also going to be organizing it next year as well, which is very exciting. Hopefully we can make it even better. And we've heard a lot of your complaints and we're going to take them on next year. But yeah, I also have experience with Flesh Market Society, helping organize events there. I have experience with lots of social media sides of things. So I run the Flesh Market social media account and stuff, which I know is a big part of Paola's current role. And yeah, what was the second part of the question again? I keep forgetting. Balancing your university. Oh yeah. So I'm going to be honest, guys. I'm a religious studies student. I do not do computer science. So my dissertation doesn't really matter. It's pretty simple. I'm going to be fully dedicated to CompSoc. That's more important than my degree, and I'm being deadly serious. So yeah.
I actually have a lot of experience left over from high school organizing events because I was on the student council. I've done several bake sales, a Christmas bazaar, and an online meme competition that was very successful. I guarantee you. Yeah. And I guess the latter part of the question isn't applicable to me because I won't be in fourth year next year. I'll only be in third year. And I do CogSci, which is half philosophy. My degree doesn't matter either.
You're taking on a school representative role as well. So then my question shifts then to become, how would you balance your schoolwork, school rep role, and your social sec role?
I think I'll do fine. I'm just confident.
Would you be interested in hosting any themed events? Like where people have to dress up or stuff like that? And if so, what ideas are you thinking of?
Well, people who know me know that my current obsession is pirates for some reason. I would totally love to do some sort of pirate, not just pirates, but what you just said spoke to my heart. I'm not even joking. We have to do that if everyone's down. We'll be doing lots of themed things. So yeah.
I fully concur. I can't say I shared Ashley's passion for pirates, but come on, cosplay. I know there are weebs here. Cosplay, please. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And now for our Year 2 rep, Charlotte Owsell.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Charlotte Owsell, and I'm running, as you heard, for second-year rep. Now, there's been quite a lot of troubles troubles that I've had coming into university my first year. Some of those were academic. It's hard to start getting used to this sort of workflow. But another problem really is about the social aspect, because even right now, I don't really know many people from our year who are here at CompSoc, and I think that's very unfortunate. So I believe that the most important thing as a second-year rep will be to try and get people from our year, specifically from the second year, or soon-to-be second year, to get involved in CompSoc. I attended the Hack the Borough hackathon and the programming competition, the Code Clash, and there weren't really many people from my year there, and I was wondering, well, why? And I think something important that I'll do in my role is really find out what is it that makes people not come to these events, because we have enough of them. I know many people always say, oh, well, we should host more events, we should host more socials. I think we already do a lot of that, and really it's the question of, well, can we get the turnout up? If we can get the turnout up, then I'm sure more people will have a better view of the whole society, and I'm sure more people will have more fun. Thank you.
Any questions from the floor? You're next.
Hi there. So you're running for the second-year rep role.
That's right.
And I would say that interaction from the current first years with the society has been a bit low, or lower than I would want it to be. So how exactly would you increase that turnout?
I think the most important part of that is finding out the reason why. I already sort of touched on that, but it's about maybe people aren't confident. And if they aren't confident, then why aren't they confident? Is it their technical ability in programming? Is it their technical ability? Is it maybe their confidence socially? Should we maybe do something that's a bit more online, maybe? Maybe something in person isn't the right option. You know, it's a question of finding out what people's issues are and then trying to address them.
I just have a wee question that says just, what can you do to increase communication between the year 2 people and the committee itself? Because being a year 1 rep, I felt that like just constant messages in the group chat have made me really like get a feel for what my cohort thinks. Do you think you'll be able to maintain that level of responsiveness within the community?
So if I understand right, your question is how will I be able to communicate with people? Yeah. So I'm already very active in the ComSoc general Discord server. Sadly, our year's Discord server isn't that active, again, partially because of these reasons that I've mentioned, so I'm going to try and get people more active in that one. You're right, I'm not in various different, like I heard there's a WhatsApp group and stuff like that. I'm not there, and so I'll definitely join there and try and get to know people. But at the moment, I'm already very active in the ComSoc Discord server, and hopefully that's a good example of the sort of activity that I'll be showing in all the other platforms. So thank you.
The questions there. Thank you, Charlotte. And for our 3rd-year rep, Ennis not Ron, Eidegan.
Hello, I think this role is pretty self-explanatory. Hopefully most of you know me from the year group server as like TWWSTS or like NS, whatever. Yeah, I'll be hopefully your voice. I'm pretty accessible. I probably have all the platforms you use. I don't know, Telegram, Discord, WeChat, WhatsApp, whatever. Just hit me a message. And yeah, you can even come to my house. I will give you free snacks, grzeszkis, nice stuff. And that's about it, I guess. Any questions?
Any questions from the floor?
What if someone takes you up on the house offer?
Come and you'll see.
Okay, thank you very much. And for old person rep, it's Mr. Monad Man himself, Dylan Thines.
I look at you all and I see all of these. Wait, one moment. I look at you all and I see all these bright, happy eyes, and I wonder where it all went wrong. But actually, I use this technology, you know. Part of becoming and finishing your computer science degree is that you no longer trust computers. You just loathe them. Anyways, as old person rep, I've grown a beard, and what I'm going to hopefully do for you all is be around at these events in the coming year. I know a lot of grads, so I won't say I do pretty good at hooking people up with any grads if they want to ask them questions, whatever. So that's sort of like the actually useful side of things, where I don't pretend to be old. That's it. Thanks a lot.
Obviously, I know you, I've known you since first year, I'd like you. I am very concerned about your competency for this role, though. Because you have promised to do things, which is fundamentally not any part of the remit of the old person rep.
Look.
So can I ask for your, at this point, commitment and promise to not do anything for the rest of the year? And then I can give you my vote in good conscience.
I suppose I could take one for the team and do absolutely nothing.
Thank you.
So I think, like, for a representative role, I think trust and the ability to be transparent with the people that you're representing is quite important. So I hope that we can be trusted with the answer to this question. What is a monad?
Do you really want the answer?
Okay, maybe not.
It's just a monoid in the category of endofunctors.
Thank you very much. And with that, that was our final candidate. We have a couple of positions that will be opening up again in September, if you're still willing to run for committee at that point. So now we're leaving the voting open for 5 more minutes, at which point we heavily suggest that you go and vote, given you've actually sat here for the 2 hours. So have fun. It's in the Constitution. Hello, Ali. Hello. All right, so voting closes in 2 minutes, and then we'll be announcing the results shortly. Okay, so votes have just closed, so we are very happy to announce the results. So, first of all three of our constitutional amendments have passed, so keep an eye out. You'll see some pull requests being opened there soon. I haven't seen the results either. These are all surprises to me as well. So for the role of president, I'm very happy to announce Ben Mcconville. For the role of vice president, Christoph. Unfortunately for secretary, we have Kshitij. For treasurer, I am happy to announce that we have elected Sophie Batamaden. For the role of graphics designer, Margot Zagorka. For the role of tech sec, we have Greg. For Social Secretary, I am glad to welcome Amy Yin. For second year representative, Charlotte. For third year rep, we have Ennis, not Ron. And I don't think I really need to say anything when I say Monad Man has been elected. Thank you, everyone. We'll be incredibly excited to welcome the new committee. We'll be in... Yes, that as well. Can everyone come up and stand here, please? You have responsibilities now. So we'll be incredibly excited to start our handover process soon. And we're really excited, and we really hope that you will come along to our next STMU and engage in our events. CompSoc loves you.